The Paracave Podcast, proudly brought to you by major sponsor Jack's Pale Ale, exclusively available at Parramatta Leagues Club, Shannon Cooney from Glenmore Park Realty, BTZD Clothing, and the official media partner of the Paracave Podcast, the Parramatta Times.
Welcome to another episode of the Paracave Podcast. And now over to your host, Troy Warner, broadcasting live from the world-famous Paracave.
And yes, hello and welcome back to another episode of the Paracave Podcast. Troy Warner here, and I've got my special little tipper who got 7 out of 8 last week. Ella, how are you going today?
Good.
That's good. A magnificent effort there. 7 out of 8. That is sensational because I think I only got about 5, I think. So you nearly got a perfect round. Maybe this could be the week of the perfect round. We are in round number 24 of the NRL, and as I said last week, we are getting down to the business end of the season. Look, there still is a few teams in line for that top 8 spot. The Cowboys are in 7th spot. They have one bye to come, so they've got a little bit of breathing space there. The Dolphins, the Dragons, they're on both on 26 points. The Dolphins are in there because of for and against. The Newcastle Knights and Raiders on 24. I think it's only those sides that can potentially make the 8 in that 8th spot. But look, in this magnificent game of rugby league, anything can happen. Now, we're back to 8 games a week this week, and we have the Brisbane Broncos having the bye this week, so they'll get 2 points. I don't think they can make the 8, even though they had a win last week. But hey, what a great game to kick off round number 24. It is the Panthers versus the Storm. It is 1 versus 2. It is I guess you could say a replay of the 2020 grand final that was won by the Storm. And I think these two have probably become a little bit of rivals over recent years. They played in prelims and grand finals, and they have a little bit of a good rivalry together. The Storm, they have been one of the most consistent sides all season. The Panthers, they are slowly warming up to September. The return of Nathan Cleary, he's been back for a few weeks now. Look, the Panthers, the good news for you Panther fans is Dylan Edwards and James Fisher-Harris could potentially return from injury. They have been named among the reserves bench. Edwards hasn't played since Origin number 3, and James Fisher-Harris, one of the Bash brothers, his last match was against the Dragons in round 21. Liam Martin is suspended from last week's game against the Eels for contact with a kicker. That was Dijon Arcee. Scott Sorensen has a hamstring injury. So Mav Geyer, MG's son, he gets into the starting side along with Liam Henry. For the Storm, Eli Katoa returns from a knee injury. Trent Liero moves back to lock. Big Nelson, who scored a try last week, he goes to prop. Tui Kamakamita to the bench. So, look, as we have a look at the stats of this game, as I said, it is 1 versus 2. The two sides met way early on in this season, back in March. It was 8-0 victory to the Melbourne Storm on that occasion. The Panthers, their last 5 games, 5 wins. The Melbourne Storm, only that one dropped game against the Dragons down there at Amy Park, which they ended a 25-year hoodoo 18 points to 16. So, look, it's going to be a full house at Bluebet Stadium. Ella, I know who you are going to tip. Who are you going to tip in this clash?
Well, you probably already know who I'm going to tip.
Yes.
I've always tipped them.
Yes,
when
you
they
have.
have played. It is Panthers.
Yes. Look, this is a really good clash, this one, and I knew that you were going to tip Penrith. So, I'm going to tip Penrith as well, but geez, this is going to be a close game. It could be another 8-0 game to the Panthers, but I think I'm going to tip the Panthers only because they got the home ground advantage, I think.
Okay.
The next game, the first game on Friday night, sees the Manly Sea Eagles take on the New Zealand Warriors at 4 Pines Park. Now, it is close to a sellout. I noticed the other day on socials there are less than 1,000 tickets to be sold, and this wouldn't be the first time that the Sea Eagles have sold out their home ground. For them, prop Josh Aloiai returns from a knee injury. Nathan Brown, one of my favourite players, he shifts back to the bench as well. So, for you Warriors fans, Kiwi Sean Johnson, he returns after missing the Dolphins game due to a quad strain. So that's big news for you New Zealand Warrior fans, having Sean Johnson coming back into the team, and one of the last times that he'll play in Australia, as he announced his retirement from rugby league not last week, I think it was. So this game played at 4 Pines Park, as I mentioned before, and look, the last time they played this year in April, it was a 22-all draw. So that's why you'll see the Warriors and the Sea Eagles have a uneven number of points on the ladder, which the Sea Eagles sit in 6th spot on 29 points, and the Warriors are on 21 points. I think they cannot make the finals this year. But the Sea Eagles, they will want to get this win to get in the top 4. They'll be clashing with the Bulldogs in a few weeks' time, and they could potentially get into that top 4 position there. Now, this should be a good clash, I think. I just think at 4 Pines Park, the spiritual home of the Sea Eagles, they have got a lot to play for. The Warriors, they've got pride to play for now. But Ella, who are you going to tip in this one?
I think the Sea Eagles.
Yeah, wise choice there. I am going to go the Sea Eagles in that one as well. I think they'll get the win, and they'll get the win comfortably. Now, the next game on Friday night is at Allianz Stadium. Sees the Sydney Roosters take on the Parramatta Eels. The Roosters, they had the bye last week, and coach Trent Robinson has gone with the same 17 that beat the Dolphins over there in Perth, which is good news there. And for the Eels, Kelma Tuolagi is back from a thumb injury on the interchange bench. Matt Dury makes way. That's the only change in the 17 that pushed the Panthers last week. Only 2 points in that game last week, unfortunately. It was a massive effort from the Panthers in the last 6 minutes, 3 tries. The interesting one here to note is that Ryan Madison has been named to start the game at lock, although it came out during the week that he suffered 3 broken ribs in that game against the Panthers. So, look, I think there may be a late change there potentially to that side with Ryan Madison dropping out, and you may see Matt Dury go back onto the bench, and maybe Kilmer go into the starting side. They have used Sean Lane at lock before as well. I don't know if they'll do that again. You could maybe potentially put Bryce Cartwright back there and Kilmer into the second row position. But look, terrible season for the Eels this year. As we know, they're coming second last on the ladder. Look, the form line of these two sides, it doesn't look too good for Parramatta. They went down to the Panthers last week. They had a win against the Warriors, so only 1 out of their last 5 for the Eels. For the Roosters, 4 out of their last 5 going down to the Storm, which seems to be a bit of their bogey side. So the Roosters, they'll be fresh. They had the week off last week. Ella, who are you going for in this one?
The Roosters, and I already know who you're probably going
Well,
to pick.
look, I am going to tip Parramatta. I do believe that Parramatta, they did step up against the Panthers last week in the Battle of the West, and they played some good footy. Look, it's going to be difficult to beat the Roosters, who are gunning for a top 4 finish in this competition. And the Roosters do seem to be a bit of a bogey side for Parramatta. They went down by 10 points to the Roosters in their first meeting at CommBank Stadium, 28 points to 18. Look, I am going to tip Parramatta, but I think the Roosters they'll definitely be tough to beat. The next game is the Bulldogs, the high-flying Bulldogs, up against the Dolphins, and this game is being played up at Bundaberg, Salter Oval up in Bundaberg, so a chance for you North Queenslanders to see a game of rugby league, NRL, taking it to, I guess you could say, a country sort of area of Bundaberg up there in Queensland. The Bulldogs, I think they take a game up there, one game every year, so this is their game that they're taking up there. The Dolphins, for the Bulldogs, Jamin Salmon, he returns for the first time since suffering a jaw injury against the Warriors in round 18. He joins the interchange bench, so he is back. Unfortunately for the Dolphins, crowd favourite Mark Nichols is out, which is a big blow. He's a crowd favourite, Mark Nichols, the GOAT they call him. Lachlan Hubner has come into the interchange bench for his second career game. He debuted in round number 6 against the Broncos. The form line of these two sides, well, look, the Bulldogs, as I mentioned, they are the high flyers of the competition at the moment, sitting in 5th spot on the ladder. They will be gunning for a top 4 finish as well. Now, this is the first time they've played this year. They've only met once last year. That was a 23-22 victory to the Bulldogs. That was a Matt Burton field goal. Who else would it be? I should have known that off by heart. Matt Burton field goal there. And this game was also played at Salter over in Bundaberg as well. So this looks like the traditional game that they may take up there every year. So the Dolphins, they sit in 8th spot on 26 points. As I said, the Dragons also on 26 points. And the Newcastle Knights, Raiders on 24. So they haven't secured a top 8 spot yet in this competition. This is their second year in the competition, but they haven't secured that spot yet, so they'll be desperate for the victory. As I mentioned, the Bulldogs, they'll be desperate to get this win as well and just try and get that top 4 finish and get into that top 4, get those 2 bites at the cherry. So, look, this is going to be a really good game. Last week, the Dolphins, they played the Warriors, got away with that one, 34 points to 32. The Bulldogs, they beat the Dragons at Cogra Oval, 28 points to 10. 4 out of their last 5 for the Bulldogs, 2 out of the last 5 for the Dolphins. Ella, who are you going for in this one?
I'm going to go for the Bulldogs.
The Bulldogs? Okay, yes. Look, I think I would tip the Bulldogs as well. I just think they're on a bit of a roll at the moment. Look, I would love to see the Dolphins win it and stay in the race for that top 8, but I think the Bulldogs will get the win in that one. The next game on Saturday, 5:30pm. This one up at North Queensland, Townsville, Queensland Country Bank Stadium. The Cowboys taking on the Raiders. This is a must-win for the Raiders. As I mentioned before, sitting on 24 points in 11th position. The Cowboys on 28 points in 7th position, but they do have a bye in hand. So there's a guaranteed 2 points for them coming their way. As I mentioned, it is a desperate win for the Raiders. If they are any chance, this is do or die for them. They are outsiders in this game, as you could imagine that the Cowboys are favourites into this game. Interesting one here. Chad Townsend has been dropped to the reserves list, so that's an interesting one there. And Jake Clifford he's replaced Chad in the number 7 jersey. So that last game that he played was the win over Penrith at Penrith. So unfortunately, Jeremiah Nanai will miss the game after suffering a head knock against the Broncos. Thomas McHaley joins the bench. For the Raiders, a head knock to Jordan Rapana as well. Seb Chris goes to the wing. Ethan Strange, who's been playing a lot of 5'8", he goes to centre. And Adam Cook, he goes into the 5'8" position as well. So, look, Emre Gula and Danny Levi get added to the bench as well. So, look, an interesting few changes there for the Raiders in this must-win game. The last time they played, it was earlier on this season, down in Canberra, 34 points to 16. The Cowboys got the victory there. And, look, I think the Cowboys, they're a little bit up and down. They were expected to beat the Broncos last week, but they lost. 3 straight victories before that. The Raiders, 2 only out of their last 5 games have they tasted victory. As I said, it's desperate times for the Raiders. Ella, who are you tipping in this one?
The Cowboys.
Yeah, smart choice there. I will go the Cowboys as well. I just think they will get that win and just try and solidify their spot in that top 8. Then the final game on Saturday sees the West Tigers take on the Rabbitohs at Campbelltown Sports Stadium, Saturday 7:35 p.m. 2 traditional rivals here, I guess you could say. So for the Rabbitohs, just one change to the starting side with Tallis Duncan coming into the back row for Michael Cheekham. The new man on the bench is Jacob Host. So he comes back after round 22. He suffered a abdominal strain. A few changes for the Tigers, who, look, the Tigers, they can be a little bit unfortunate of late, but they just seem to, they can score points, but then they let in a lot of points as well. They're playing a lot of high-scoring games. The last time these two sides played, it was 42 points to 28 in favour of the Rabbitohs at a Core Stadium. The Tigers lost the last 5 games. The Rabbitohs are only one better. They're having won 1 out of their last 5 as well, and that was against the Tigers, 42 points to 28. So the Tigers, they can score points, but they also can let in a lot of points. Look, the Rabbitohs are on 20 points. They won't play finals this year. The Tigers, they're on 12 points. They will want to try and get this win and avoid getting their 3rd straight wooden spoon. But I think it's going to be difficult for them. I just think that the Rabbitohs have classier players in their side. Ella, who are you going for in this one?
I'm going to go for the Rabbitohs.
Yeah, smart choice there. I will go the Rabbitohs as well. Now, Sunday football kicks off. Dragons and Titans, 2 p.m. at WIN Stadium. So I guess you could say the spiritual home of the Dragons. I just think that the Dragons play a lot better brand of football at WIN Stadium. I don't know what it is, but they seem to step it up down there. I'm not 100% sure why, but they have had a lot of wins down there this season. So Jack Bird comes into the side. Toby Couchman returns from suspension. Moses Sully is out, so that's a big blow for the Dragons. Shout out to Hame Selly as well. He was taken to hospital with chest pains and shortness of breath. He has come out, I think, on social media and thanked everyone for their concerns and messages and the like. He is doing well at the moment. He is taking the right medication and he's getting looked after really well. So that's good news to hear about that. Always a little bit scary seeing a player go into an ambulance at a football game. But his spot has been taken by Francis Molo, and Raymond Fatala Mariner drops to the bench. For the Titans, Brian Kelly returns after missing the Broncos game due to illness. AJ Brimson, he returns to the bench in number 14, which is exciting to see. Mo Fotuaika, he has a one-game ban. So Aaron Clark into the starting side. Keenan Palacina back onto the bench as well. So look, this Gold Coast team, they had a real opportunity last week to get a victory, but unfortunately they didn't. They got smashed by... I just had a bit of a brain snap there. The Sharks, 44-0. It was a ridiculous score at half-time. I think it was like 30-0 or something at half-time. 44-0 to the Sharks last week after they've been playing some pretty good footy, looking like they may sneak their way into the top 8, but I think it's going to be very difficult for them if they have any chance of winning. Getting into the top 8, they need to win every single game and have results go their way. I dare say that their season is done at the moment, even if they do get this win. The Dragons beat them in round 2 of this season, 28 points to 4, up there on the Gold Coast. So a good victory to the Dragons. That was way back in March. The Dragons, 2 out of their last 5. Now, if you go by their win-loss ratio, they are due for a win in this one, having gone down to the Bulldogs 28 points to 10, and then previously to that beating the Storm 18 points to 16. The Titans, as I mentioned, they've got 3 out of their last 5, but they did get absolutely smashed by the Sharks last week. Ella, who are you going for in this one?
The Dragons.
Yes, I will be going for the Dragons as well. I think this is a more important game for the Dragons. As I mentioned before, they sit on 26 points, just out of the 8 on for and against. So with the potential of the Bulldogs defeating the Dolphins, and if the Dragons win against the Titans, they'll get into that top 8 spot. The last game of the round, 4:05 p.m, sees the Sharks take on the Newcastle Knights at Shark Park. I call it Shark Park, but it's PointsBet Stadium. I call it Shark Park. And now I do believe there's a lot of action happening down at Shark Park this weekend. I think there could be a triple header going on there, as I do think that, yes, the NRLW is also playing there, the Sharks and Knights, and I think there's another game being played there as well. So a lot of action being played down there at Shark Park, but to this game in first grade, it is the Sharks taking on the Knights. Now, the Sharks, they had that big win against the Titans, they've beaten the Rabbitohs. Big win against the Tigers. They lost to the Cowboys 3 out of their last 5. The Newcastle Knights, they returned to form against the Tigers last week at McDonald Jones Stadium, getting the win 34 points to 18. 3 straight losses before that. A little bit of a disappointing season for the Newcastle Knights. They sit on 24 points. Look, they're still not out of it. They need to win every game, as I said before, to and results go their way to force their way into that top 8. But if they can get onto a run, you just never know. But look, sitting on 24 points, this is a must-win game for them. For the Sharks, they are on 32 points in that 4th position on the ladder. So they will want to get the win to secure a top 4 spot as well. Ella, who are you going for in this one?
I'm going to go for the Sharks.
Yes, probably a good choice there. I will go the Sharks as well. So that will do us for this round of NRL. Just recapping Ella's tips here in round 24. We've got the Panthers, we've got Manly, we've got the Roosters, the Bulldogs, Cowboys, Rabbitohs, Dragons and Sharks.
Yep.
And for my tips, I've gone the Panthers, Manly, I've gone Parramatta, and I've gone the Bulldogs, Cowboys, South, Dragons, Sharks. So we've only got the Parramatta one different. So
I was guessing that.
Yeah. So one of us might get a perfect round and one of us might not. So
Yeah.
who's that going to be?
Me.
Okay. Well, you did get 7 out of 8 last week, so you did better than me last week. Now, that is all the games in there. Now, don't forget that round 4 of the NRLW is being played as well. Kicks off 11 a.m. on Saturday. So 5 games this weekend, as there is every weekend. The Broncos take on the Raiders. The Cowboys take on the Titans. On Sunday, 12 p.m, the Dragons take on the Roosters, the Sharks take on the Knights, and the final game of the weekend is 6:10 p.m, the Tigers take on the Eels, and that game is also being played at Campbelltown Stadium as well. So that is the where are we? The Rabbitohs and the Tigers in the NRL play on the Saturday night, and then the Tigers and the Eels play on the Sunday night at Campbelltown Stadium. Thank you very much for listening, Ella. Thank you very much for joining me once again. We shall do this again next week, Tuesday, for round 25. Let's see how we go this weekend. We'll both have a crucial eye on all these games to see which ones we get right and which ones we get wrong. Listeners, enjoy your footy over the weekend, and hopefully your team can get up. And thank you very much for listening, and we will join you again next week. Go Para!
Thank you for listening to another episode of the Paracave Podcast. See you next time.